Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, we'll be drafting out this Victorian corset that you can see on your screen. I've already gone ahead to roll out my points and I'll quickly run you guys through all the lines that I have here. So the first line I have is my guideline. I went down by 1 inch from the start of this pattern paper. That line is going to be where I'll start placing my measurements. The next thing I did was to mark the distance from my shoulder to my upper chest line, which is 6 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my bust point is 10 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my under bust point is 13 inches. And the distance from my shoulder to my waist point is 16 inches. From the waist point, I went down by 5 inches. So as you can see on the thumbnail, the Victorian corset, it has a basque waistline, so you can use this 5 inches to achieve the basque waistline, and you can also use it to make it an inbuilt corset depending on how tall you are. The next thing I did was to take half of my shoulder measurement minus 1 inches, 1 inch. Half of my shoulder measurement is 8 inches. I minus 1 inch from it and I placed it on that dots. I went down by 9 inches, which is half of my round armhole circumference. Okay, on that 9 inches, I ruled a straight line from the shoulder line to meet the 9 inches, and from there I ruled a straight line across. So I have the upper chest line, which is 6 inches. I have the chest line, which is half of my round armhole measurement. I have the bust line, which is 10 inches, under bust line 13 inches, waistline 16 inches, and the 5 inches that I came down with from the waistline. Next thing I did is to take my bust pan measurement, which is half of my nipple to nipple measurement. Mine is 4 inches, so I placed 4 inches on all the lines, and I went ahead to connect all the dots into a straight line. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and take in the darts. So on the upper chest line, I'm going to go out from this straight line by 1 inch. I'll repeat the same thing for the other side of this straight line. I'll head over to the under bust line and I'll take 1 inch on both sides of the straight line also. I'll repeat the same thing on the waistline. I'll take 1 inch on both sides. And on the length of this blouse, go ahead and take half an inch. Please don't take 1 inch. I took 1 inch on both sides, but I later adjusted it. So just take half an inch on both sides of the straight line. After doing that, what I'm going to do is to connect from the upper chest line to meet the bust line in a curve. So just look at the way I'm placing my ruler. Make sure the line here is not straight and is not too deep either. So I'm going to connect like this. I'll place the ruler on the other side and I'll connect. I'll also connect from the bust line to meet the under bust line, and from the under bust line I'll connect in a slant to meet the length of this pattern paper. So guys, after taking in the first dart, I'm going to go ahead and start creating other star lines. So I'll start from this center. I'm going to place my tape like this and I'll take 1.5 inches inward. As you can see, I'll take it all the way down. After doing that, I'll connect all the dots into a straight line. So guys, like I said earlier, take half an inch on the base of this pattern paper, that's on the blouse length. I took 1 inch before, but I'm trying to adjust mine now. So I'm going to take half an inch and I'll just connect from the under bust line to meet the blouse length, as you can see. So I'm going to cancel the previous line. That's not what I'm going to be using. This particular one is what I'm going to use. So on this new straight line, I'm going to place my tape on the under bust line and I'm going to take half an inch, which is 1/4 inch on both sides of this straight line, 1/4 inch. After doing that, I'll confirm that what I have there is half an inch. 1/4 inch is half an inch. I'll repeat the same thing on the waistline. I'll take 1/4 inch on both sides. After doing that, I'm going to connect into a straight line, as you can see. Okay, so after connecting, I'm now going to connect from there to meet the upper chest line, and from there I'll connect to meet the blouse length. So just look at what I'm doing and do what I'm doing. Okay, after doing that, guys, I'm going to label this as my number 1 pattern, and I also have my number 2 pattern. So we are going to go ahead and work on the number 3 pattern. Okay, so what I'll do now is to place my tape on the straight line. That is the first dart leg. Okay, my tape is on the straight line. I'll go out by 3 inches. I'll do that on the under bust line, on the bust line, on the waistline, and on the blouse length. Okay, after marking the 3 inches, I'm going to connect all the dots into a straight line. So where I made mistake on the blouse length, you can see that I'm placing my tape on my new line, not on the old one. So I'll connect into a straight line. After doing that, I'm going to place my tape on the under bust line and I'll go out by half an inch on both sides of the straight line. So I'll take half an inch here, I'll take half an inch on the other side, and then I'm going to connect the 2 dots into a straight line. After doing that, just like I did for number 1, I'm going to connect from there to meet the upper chest line. I'll also connect from the waistline to meet the blouse length like this. So this is our number 3 pattern. So guys, next thing I'll do is to get the number 4 pattern. I'll still place my tape on the straight line, that's the dart leg, and I'll go out by 3 inches. You can go out by 2.5 inches here, but I'll be doing 3 inches. So I'm going to mark 3 inches on all the lines. After doing that, I'm going to connect the dots into a straight line. So after connecting the dots, I'm going to go ahead and still take half an inch on both sides of the straight line. So I'll place my tape on the under bust line. I'll go out by half an inch on both sides of the straight line. I'll place my tape on the waistline and I'll go out by half an inch on both sides of the straight line. After doing that, I'll connect the dots into a straight line. After connecting the dots, I'm going to go ahead and connect from there to meet the chest line. Okay, so at this point, you can go ahead and extend your line to the upper chest line. I'm going to do that later. So extend the straight line to meet the upper chest line. After connecting my dart, I have the number 4. So to get our number 5 pattern, I'm going to go ahead and start placing my body measurements. So on the bust line, I'm going to place my bust circumference divided by 4, as you can see. Okay, so the bust circumference divided by 4 that I'm working with is 9.25 inches. I indicated that. What I'm going to do now is to now calculate all these darts together. Okay, so I have half an inch, half an inch, and half an inch, which is 1.5 inches. I'll replace that. After replacing the dart, I'll go ahead and add 2 inches for my stitching allowance. Okay, so as you can see, I've replaced my dart and I'm adding my stitching allowance. That is that for the bust line. On the under bust line, on the chest line first, I'm going to place my upper chest line measurement. Upper chest line is a little above your bust point. You know my chest line is 8 inches. My upper chest line is 2 inches from my chest line. So place your tape there and measure what you have, divide it by 4. After doing that, I went ahead to replace this dart of 2 inches, and then I added 2 inches for my stitching allowance. Okay, I hope you guys are not confused. On the under bust line, I'm going to place my under bust circumference divided by 4. I indicated that I'm going to replace all the darts. So I have ½ inch here, I have 2 inches here, which is 2.5 inches. I have 1 inch here, 3.5 inches, and I have another 1 inch here, which is 4.5 inches. So I'm going to replace the 4.5 inches, and I'll add 2 inches for my stitching allowance. I hope you guys are getting it. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. Here I'll indicate that, and I'll start replacing the darts. So go ahead and place your tape on all the darts. Whatever you get, replace it, and then add your stitching allowance to that measurement. On the blouse length, I'm going to place my hip circumference divided by 4, and I'll replace the dart of 1.5 inch. Sorry, the dart of 1 inch. Okay, and I'll add 2 inches for my stitching allowance. After taking all the points, I'm going to go ahead and connect them like this. Okay, so after doing that, guys, this is what we have. So we have our number 5 pattern. So if you are doing a basque waistline, go down from your waistline by like 2 inches and then slant it to the center front, which is number 1. Just slant it there. I'm not going to do that for now. So like I said earlier, extend your number 4 pattern to meet the upper chest line, which is what I just did. So I'm going to label my number 5 just so I don't get confused. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to connect the armhole. So this is the normal armhole. I'm connecting from the chest line, which is where my armhole circumference measurement is. So I'll connect from there to meet the straight line. This is our normal armhole. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to curve out the new armhole. Remember, this is an off-shoulder blouse, so we don't need this long armhole. So I went in by 2 inches for my stitching allowance on the armhole area. What I'm going to do is to connect from that 2 inches. Okay, I'll connect from that 2 inches, just like you see me doing, to meet the chest line. Okay, so this armhole is divided into 2 now. Since we don't have a shoulder for this top, we don't need this long armhole. So the next thing is to determine the neckline. So I'm going to go down by about 9 inches or 8 inches. It depends on what you want and how deep you want the neckline to be. So what I'll do is to first of all connect the new armhole. So just look at the way I'm going to place my tape. I went in by 2 inches, which is my stitching allowance. From that stitching allowance, I'm going to connect to meet the chest line, which is where my armhole is going to be sitting. So I'm going to connect like this. After connecting, I'm going to place my tape and I'll connect from the neckline to meet that armhole area. So you can decide the type of neckline that you want. I'm doing a sweetheart neckline. That is why I placed my ruler like this. So after connecting, this is what I have for the neckline. And yeah, guys, that is all for the drafting of this front pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and cut. So please pay close attention so you know where to cut. After cutting, guys, this is what I have. We have number 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay, so this is the pattern for the front. For the back, guys, I've gone ahead to rule out my lines. Okay, so what I'll do is to take out my zipper allowance. In case you want to add a zipper to your dress or your blouse, go ahead and take your zipper allowance. But if you're adding loop, there is no need to take your zipper allowance. My zipper allowance is 2 inches. So I've gone ahead to roll out my lines like I did earlier. Distance from my shoulder to my upper chest line is 6 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my bust line is 10 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my under bust line is 13 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my waistline is 16 inches. From the waistline, I went down by 5 inches. I also ruled a straight line across. So these are all the lines that I have here, which are not really important for the back pattern. But since we've already done that for the front, I decided to do it for the back so you guys don't get confused. So the next thing I did was to take half of my shoulder measurement minus 1 inch, just like I did for the front. So I placed 7 inches. On that 7 inches dot, I went down by 9 inches, which is half of my round arm or circumference. I'll make sure that I have the 7 inches that I have on the chest line on this line. I'll adjust it and make sure I have the same thing there. After doing that, I'll connect the 2 dots into a straight line, and then I'm going to rule a straight line across, which is where my armhole is going to be sitting. The next thing I'll do is to label my lines. I have the upper chest line, which is 6 inches, the chest line, which is half of my round armhole measurement, 9 inches, the bust line, which is 10 inches, under bust line 13 inches, waistline 16 inches, and I went down by 5 inches from the waistline. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is to take half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches. I'm going to place the 4 inches on all the lines and I'll connect into a straight line. After doing that, I'm going to take in my darts. So on the chest line, I'm going to take 1 inch on both sides of the straight line, 1 inch. On the under bust line, I'll take 1 inch, 1 inch on both sides of the straight line, and on the blouse length, I'll take ½ inch on both sides of the straight line. After doing that, I'm going to connect from the upper chest line to meet the under bust line, and from that point, I'm going to connect to meet the blouse length like this. After taking in my data, I'm going to go ahead and start placing my measurements. So on the upper chest line, I'll place my upper chest line circumference divided by 4. The upper chest line is always smaller than the chest line. So the upper chest line I'm working with is 35 inches. I went ahead to divide it by 4 and I replaced this dart of 2 inches and I added 2 inches for my stitching allowance. Okay, so on the waistline, I placed my waist circumference divided by 4. I replaced the dart of 1.5 inches and I placed 2 inches for my stitching allowance. On the blouse length, I took my hip circumference divided by 4 and I also replaced the dart and I added 2 inches for my stitching allowance. The next thing I'll do is to determine the neckline for the back. You can leave it to be straight, you can make it a U type of neckline. So I went down by about 10 inches. Okay, I indicated that. What I'll do is to connect my normal armhole just like we did for the front, as you can see. But this is an off shoulder blouse, so the armhole is not supposed to be this long. So I'm going to connect from my 2 inches allowance just like I did before, like this, and then I'll connect from there to meet the back neckline. Okay, after connecting the neckline, I feel like it's too deep, so I'm just going to come up a little bit. Okay, so what I'll do is to still place my tape on the armhole area and I'll slant to meet the bust line. That is how deep I want the back neckline to be. After doing that, this is what I have. The next thing I'll do is to adjust the zipper area. So I have 2 inches as my zipper allowance. On this blouse length, I'll go inward by 1 inch. Okay, this is to eliminate zip bulge. So I'm just going to slant from the blouse length to meet the chest line, as you can see. So I took out 1 inch from the waist area. After doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut. So pay close attention so you know where to cut. After cutting out the back, this is what I have. I'll place them together and I realized that they are not the same length. So I'm going to place them side by side and I'm going to adjust the neckline area. So I'll cut off this excess to meet the armhole area, as you can see. So they now look the same. So guys, this is the 2 back piece. If you want to create another style line, you can go ahead and do that, but this 2 is enough. So when cutting, you're going to cut out two pieces each. These are my front piece, so you'll be cutting out 2 for each pattern, but the center front, which is number 1, should be on fold. Do not forget that. Every other pieces is going to be 2 pieces. So yeah guys, that is all for this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Don't forget to leave your questions in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next